I want to discuss some current events in my life. I've been going through a process with DSS where they've accused me of slapping, beating, punching, choking, suffocating my child, and they basically kept counseling my son for 4 months until they got the statement at the Hardin Park school until they got my son making the statement they wanted. Then they called in social services, and social services took and made a statement and petitioned the court for custody of my son. Well, that was granted, and then I went through court proceedings. I did not take the attorney. I fired the attorney immediately. I went before the judge. I explained to the judge I was not punching my son in the belly. I was rubbing on a bruise that he had. And if I was punching, choking, slapping, and beating and abusing my child, what is the medical evidence? The social service intake worker, Carrie Triplett, who was a known past amphetamine user, said she did not take the child to the doctor, and at which time the judge ordered that the child be taken to a doctor and examined, and at which time he was placed in a kinship placement with one of my relatives. Then, at the next 7-day hearing, after the medical exam in front of another judge, I asked the question, did you take him to the doctor to sustain or to prove that he was being neglected or abused, punched, slapped, choked, or anything? She says, no, I raised his shirt up and there was no bruise. I said, where's your medical profession, And then the judge, she started saying, you'll be respectful of this person and you'll talk to her in a proper manner. And right then I couldn't talk to this lady. And then she just continued the visitation supervised through DSS, and there was no headway in that proceeding because of such narrow-scoped minded person. I started looking around for resources to combat these people. I couldn't find them. So then we went to the adjudication, which I showed the video of us with boxing gloves and sparring in which I was playing with my son. My son loved it. My son loves me. My son loves to roughhouse. My son has never been abused. And the adjudication hearing went kind of good, but really bad, because the judge threw out the dependency. That means that there is a reasonable expectation that I can take care of my son. But then he threw medical neglect at me. And that wasn't even on the original document. And basically the reason why he threw the medical neglect at me is because I'm not a medical professional and I'm not allowed to administer to a bruise by rubbing it. I said I wasn't punching my son in the belly. I was rubbing it. And that's what you're supposed to do because of my training and my knowledge of all kinds of trauma I've seen in my life and livestock. You're supposed to rub a bruise to keep it from blood clotting and stuff. So he got me for medical neglect and neglect to tell my son that he wasn't expected to train the roughhousing, the punching and the slapping or whatever. I failed. And that was the finding. The only thing I failed in doing was explaining to the judge that I don't force my son to do any kind of training. I'm an old person. I come in, I sit down, I play on the computer, I get up, I cook dinner, we do homework, then I sit back down and play on the computer, or we're outside in the yard walking around. If he wants to roughhouse, he'll come to me and he'll throw me these boxing gloves and we'll roughhouse. I'll put them on and I'll hold them up here and he'll punch and swing, and every now and then I'll give him a little ropey dope to the ab section. I don't ever hit him in the head, and I don't really hit him, but and I'll engage with him, and then he'll wear me out, and then he'll be keeping going, and then I'll give him a little bit more ropey dope to where he don't want to go no more, and then he'll go to his room. If I go in there to watch a movie, to just go into his room and watch a movie with him, to be hanging out, he'll want to wrestle, he'll want to play, so I'll wrestle and I'll play, and when I start getting tired, I'll give him a little bit of ropey dope, a little bit of a harder, little bit of, and then he'll be, oh, I've had enough of that. But that's the extent of it. Now, the only thing I was neglectful of was to convey that to the judge. All right. So they got me on these limited visitation while he's with my kinship. This is a month in. There is no resource outside of the prescribed attorney. And I want to tell you why I got good instincts. I fired her. Now, I had to go through a child support case. Child support hearing. They're wanting $50 a month is what the child support hearing people wanted. They said, well, you just consent to this $50 a month. That way the judge, this is what the firm from that attorney that I fired told me. She gave me the paper and said, look, and I opened it up and it said $50 a month. She said, yeah, you consent to this, and that's all they want, and if you don't, the judge liable to set it higher. And I'm like, wow, $50 a month. Why would you only want $50 a month? That couldn't support a dog. So I said, can I review it? And I read it, and it said it had several line items that were gibberish and stuff, and one of them said, father is unwilling and unable or unwilling to pay child support. I'm like, unwilling to pay child support, unwilling to meet the needs of the child. I just spent $50 last night on dinner for my son, and you want $50 and want me to not contest this order that you've prepared that says that I am unwilling to provide for my son. You are trying to entrap me, and you are working for the firm. You're advising me to take this. There is no proper, the reason I'm making this video is there is no proper tools to defend a citizen against an action taken by DSS and the judiciary and the school system in Watauga County. There is none. There's zero resources. You take an attorney, you're better off if you're a meth head than you are of me. If they catch you with a meth lab, you're likely to get your children back before I would. Because I speak my political views. And I don't want nothing, let me tell you again, I don't want nothing to do with the public school system. I don't want nothing to do with government employees. I don't want anything to do with compulsory attendance laws. I don't want to have to get up before the sun comes up. I don't want my child to go to school and be investigated every day for 4 months, and then social services called and actions taken like this. I don't want to participate, and I don't want this to be the retaliatory efforts of the authorities in my government toward me and my son, toward me for speaking my view. Because I called the governor's office and I said, I don't want to participate with you people. I don't want to get up before the sun rises in the wintertime. I don't want anything to do with you effing government employees. Or maybe that wasn't even it. I give the teacher my email address for strict assignment correspondence. First thing I got was messages prying into my personal life. The moment my mom got sick, I got this teacher corresponding. How is your mother? I'm so worried about her. You don't know her. You barely know me. Don't pry and try to disseminate information about me and my family over the internet, is what I told her. She said, fine, I'll lose your email. So 2 months later, they take my child. After rehearsing this stuff, after investigating my son for a couple months, then they call social services. What is it? Why are they investigating my child? Why are there no resources to defend against the Department of Social Services custody battle? I've called several entities. Legal Aid don't handle it. And then this other advocate in Charlotte, oh, well, we only help with forms if it's a custody dispute between two civilians. We don't have any forms that we can help you generate to partition for your custody over DSS's custody. Like DSS entered a petition to seize my child, based on the fact that they coerced a statement about our activities and turned it against us. My child loves me. My child's never sad. My child's hardly ever angry at anything except for his demeanor when he's on his way to Hardin Park the last couple of days before this incident occurred. Why is that? I've literally only had to correct my child 2 times in 6 months prior to this happening. And one was the puppy cried. He was being a little rough with his puppy, and I got onto him because I don't want him to hurt his little Chihuahua puppy. And the second was he wouldn't clean his room a little bit after he got a bunch of Legos. Hadn't been an issue because I really hadn't asked him to. But I asked him 4 times and he didn't. Then he flipped his bed over. Then I demanded it. Why would they have the Speak Up, Speak Out, Be Safe program that teaches kids how to file complaints against their parents prior to this incident? Within 2 months of this incident. Prior. Why would they have all these resources to defame the parents in this community? Well, we need mentors. You hear it on the radio all day. We need mentors. Where's on the radio? Well, up here on State Farm Road is an office that is the Board of Psychology of North Carolina. Appalachian State has just expanded to having a psychiatry mastery because of their ability to have all these specimens of youth and dysfunctional families that they've been cultivating since way before mass and triplet incident. They've been cultivating these dysfunctional families through the curriculum of investigating within the public school system for over a half a decade I'm aware of. They give prescriptions of opiates and they give prescriptions of Xanaxes to mothers and fathers in our community, knowing that the first side effect is short temper and erratic and dangerous actions throughout our community. to provoke domestic disputes. And this is a fact. And this is a problem with these people in this government and community trying to foster an industry where they can manipulate the population through psychiatry and narcotics. This started in 1968 with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. What do you do when your what do you do when you're angry and you want to bite? What do you do when you're angry and you want to fight? Do you take flight? Whatever his song was. Why would you ask that of minor children? Children don't have anger issues. They don't need to be investigated. They don't need to be forced to confront that kind of mindset. What do you do when you're mad? How'd you like to hear that every day you went to school? Oh, you look tired. Are you depressed? Is somebody hurting you? Are you having problems at home? No, teacher, I'm having problems with you asking me stupid questions to make me confront a depressing situation. You're retarding my development, teacher. You're stressing the students out, teacher. You started this in 1968 or earlier, and it has affected my whole community. It has retarded every government employee, every participant of the public school system since 1968. And you're unwilling to acknowledge it. I need resources to defeat these people and regain my unevitable rights as determined by God. And that's the sanctuary of family. Not to have to comply with compulsory attendance laws that the German Prussia system used to brainwash Hitler's armies. That's how Hitler's population got brainwashed into doing the atrocities of World War I and II. Is the compulsory attendance laws forced them to wake up before sunup, depriving them of the cognitive energy to use inductive and deductive reasoning to be harmonious residents and citizens of communities, steering them away from the churches and their community and forcing them and inducting them into a society driven by the schools. Kind of like the degrading mental aptitude that is causing these shooters all across the nation. They're taking and undermining the parents' ability to educate and discipline their children. I'm supposed to be I'm my son's friend, but sometimes I have to be the disciplinary part of his life. Not the government, not the school, not the defeating entities in our community. We do not need to raise Nazis that are defeated. And that is what they're trying to do. They are robbing them of their sleep and their mental capacity and undermining every parent. I'm extremely tight with my son. I'm an extremely good parent. I have been an extremely good babysitter for multiple children. Theodore, Kenneth and his sister, and my nephew, and multiple other ones that I can't even think of from the time that they were. Well, my nephew from 3 months old till a year solid, and then, throughout his life. Not as much after he got 9 years old. Kenneth and his sisters from 7 years old till about 9, 10 years old, 10 years old. Theodore from a year old to like 3, 4 years old. And others I can't even remember at this point. They've been my buddies. And I've never had an incident like this until I became a parent. Till I got married, have I been involved in any violence, any kind of thing that diminishes my stature. I've never been slandered. I've never had anybody manipulated into making a statement that could anywhere be used to defame me or implement me as a violent person, a terrorist. They tried to frame me already for 9 felonies for communicating threats against the school system. I didn't do it. I was in the bed. I wouldn't do it. But prior to that, I was trying to procure a seat in preschool, and I was calling and telling the administrators I need this seat because I needed it. There was no babysitting options in the county, and I needed this seat. I said, what, has your salaries taken up the seats in the utilities necessary? I'm in your precinct. I'm a resident, a property owner with a child on Medicaid. You know I'm here. Why have you not procured me a seat? Why are you thinking that I don't need a seat? Why would you not have one readily available? So their answer was not just to give me a seat. I mean, I had to really raise a lot of cane to get that seat. But their answer was not to give me a seat. Their answer was try to frame me and harass me with the FBI, SBI, and Boom PD over a frivolous charge, which all 3 of them entities came to my work. They tried to defame me. They tried to do everything they could because I spoke my mind. I told them it's not right for there to be such extravagant salaries for administrators and government employees if the basic utilities to facilitate the need for preschoolers and kindergartners is not met. They said, well, there's a lot of people that don't get access to preschool, to pre-K. I'm like, there are. What, did they just fly in here and move in here? Why would you not have that ready? But their answer was not dialogue. Their answer was to try to frame me for 9 felonies, to destroy my life with 9 felonies. The assistant superintendent DeSeca, Dr. DeSeca, drove his vehicle out here in the bad frequency area, used some kind of phone that apparently wasn't traceable, called in a bomb threat, and by the end of the day, they were banging on my door and they were following me everywhere I went. Absolutely none of my friends wanted to have anything to do with me after that for a long time. They went around and they harassed everybody I knew involving this incident. Everybody. My work associates, anybody that I called, anybody I talked to, everybody. Trying to antagonize and provoke. And so I've been very political. I've been speaking my mind for the last 5 years because that's the only defense I have from these people trying to incarcerate me for questioning their authority because of this atmosphere I find myself in. All these shootings across this country have been staged and manipulated, and people have been taunted by the authorities in their community. They've not been reprimanded. They've not been properly treated. They've not been properly sanctioned. That one got wound up in the facility of the White House just less than 2 years ago. Didn't even get any kind of prison time. Just had his gun seized, and he was released. Because why? Why would that even occur? How could that possibly happen? Take a weapon to a city district like D.C., which handguns and weapons are prohibited, all the way up into the nation's capital, and on the grounds of the nation's capital, and people out here doing recreational drugs get 20 years while this guy don't even get 5 or get treatment. There's something really, really wrong with the authority structure in this community, and it's the way that they're raised without the proper amount of sleep. Without the proper amount of sleep, you don't have the cognitive energy to question authority. You just blindly follow, and you become a symptom of a problem in the system and not a cure. Do what, slander me with how you wish with this video, but the reason why I'm saying this is because it keeps me up at night worrying about you guys. Worrying what you're going to do to me and my family. Worrying what you're going to do to each other if this behavior keeps going without being checked. Worrying about what psychiatrists and the administrator and all these public associates of the school system are going to do with such a diminished demeanor about them. I'm just trying to get you guys to acknowledge that you need to help yourselves before you dictate that you're highly educated enough to help others. Before you enforce your authority over others. I can see I didn't get robbed of all that sleep when I was young. I didn't get robbed of all that sleep through my 20s. And I waited until my cognitive mental abilities started coming together. Well, I waited until I had a horse in the race. And I had a home. I didn't have a home for a long time. You guys run me over with a 4-lane highway, put me to the streets where I walked and I communed like I was in the wild with all my neighbors. And everybody thought the best of me. But since I've had a child, the worst has come out in about every one of you. The worst has come out in my whole community. And I have been treated like I am the worst. Because I will not just stand by and let this continue for another generation. I mean, I know I'm not most coherent when it comes to public speaking. I'm not a public speaker. I never really wanted to be a politician. But every time, like Jonah and the whale, I try to just sustain and mind my own P's and Q's. You find me and you provoke me into an uncomfortable situation. You never let me get out of town and enjoy myself. Me and my son, we just got a nice car. We got a canoe. We got some tents. And we're able to do traveling. And he's old enough to know where he's from. He's old enough to say, hey, I'm lost, but I know my address and my phone number. And we were just preparing to be able to go out here and enjoy these national parks because he knows where he's from. He knows who he is. He's not going to get lost. And you guys do this to me. You snatch him out with a frivolous petition to the judicial. Did you know the judicial powers in North Carolina outweigh the representative powers of North Carolina? It's pretty evident with the ruling of finding the legislation of the General Assembly in the Senate to make the law where the adorned institution of marriage between a man and a woman be sustained as a pre-established institution, and then the courts find it unconstitutional. But it's unconstitutional to deny you have to sue. That's the only way to get any of your inheritable rights back. I've learned that out of this situation. I'm not going to pander to my representatives anymore. We're going to have to take it to the court system to get and to preserve our rights to bear arms, our rights to have any substance under God-given substance on the planet for our pursuit of happiness and well-being. We'll have to sue is the only way to get it. You cannot pander to your representatives for what you want. You have to sue. You have to sue. You have to sue to restore your rights, your parental rights, all your rights. I'm going to try to draft it up. I'm going to really try to draft these up before my next court hearing to sue for the restoration of my rights, because evidently the judiciary authorities in the school system, in the Department of Social Services, and psychological authorities have all figured this out, that they can use the court system to overwhelm the consensus of the people and the representatives. Yes, I am slightly perturbed at Virginia Fox because her reciprocation to my concerns was to block me off her social media instead of engage me in positive dialogue. And I am perturbed at Mr. Jordan, although Mr. Jordan's done a lot of good work, more so than Mrs. Fox. Because Mrs. Fox has been up there for almost 2 decades now in this government, and this is a result of it. We got a result of what she has established. And that's bolstered these schools to where their authority is out of control and their demeanor is out of control and their pursuit of authority is out of control. Me being a prime example. Do not bother your poor representatives. They have no power. You have to take it to the court, and you have to appeal it until you find a moderate judge, because evidently people who wish to do this our community harm have been in power since before I was born. Since before the onset of World War II and World War I. Nobody won them wars. There was just enough people killed, and we were manipulated and being an instrument of killing. The history books proclaim us as the ones that went over there and saved the people, which we did as noble people who were led by media and information that we were available, we acted nobly. We really did. But there are some that are educated and know that we were just manipulated, the masses were just manipulated to participate in these actions, just like the Middle East, just like all these conflicts since 1913. Just absolutely every one of them. And now we got these social media platforms, this YouTube platform, Facebook, which Facebook is a little bit less open and transparent. A lot of the better videos I've made, more coherent stuff I've typed has just glitched away. So I will try to upload this now and try to get my rest. I just had to get that off my mind. I've been laying here thinking about it. I don't know if they're using electrical resonance or if they're using the cell phone towers to focus on people and distort their sleep ability, but I have not been able to sleep. Well, I guess they could just be using, it could just be a byproduct of my situation I'm going through since the 12th of January. Today's the 25th of April. My son's not been home since the 12th of January. And I can hear it in his voice. He's getting a little less fortified. God, please be with us. Good night, everybody, and let's try to be peaceful as we try to correct these authorities and these institutions. Don't allow them to drive you to tearing up your communities. Don't allow them to drive you from shooting up innocent people. Don't allow them to drive you to confront the poor police officers that are being, that's their minimal salaries of $35,000 that doesn't hardly even meet their needs. You got to understand their stress because they've been bought into, probably each one of them's got a little student loan, and then each one of them's got a family, and each one of them's got a mortgage and car payment, and all them things that I wish they'd never had to be forced to engage in. That stresses them out. And then they have to deal with people that are deprived of sleep, overprescribed medications, underprescribed caretaker facilities for the older people. They have to deal with all this stuff. And it's a manipulated situation we can get away from if we can just restore the sleep patterns to these people. Just move school back 1 more hour. Just 1 hour. Allow people to have full cognitive regeneration sleep cycles to where when the sun's up, they get up. Not get up at 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun gets up. Get on a bus before your parents and everybody. Don't be forced to delegate the responsibilities of educating your children. You all need to do this. You need to adjust the system to be more coherent and peaceful and not force people to just bend over and take it. All these old people, yes, I'm mad at you for working like you do till that's all you know. It's not right. You set a standard that's not natural. People in further generations back, they didn't work 40, 50 hours a week. They worked 2 or 3 hard days, and then they took a day and recuperated. And then they probably worked a couple half days. They didn't work 7 days a week. They didn't work 6 days a week. They did not work all the time. They lived. They raised a garden. A garden doesn't take 24 hours a day. I mean, 20. At the most, you got to put, I don't know, but it's not what they got you doing. It's not the hoops you got people jumping through. Our economy, our technology, our populations all dictate 30 hours should be a full work week. And anyhow, I got a whole bunch of suggestions that would recalibrate and make us all a lot feasible, enable us to focus our time and energy on exploration and betterment for expand our expand our life, not be haters, not be manipulators, not try to leverage over each other, because really there's not enough resources to leverage over each other. That's why there's people starving to death. I've been very hungry before, while others around me have had abundances. I have worked my ass off for minimum wage while everybody else lived in abundance. I have provided commodities where everybody else have learned how to be administrators and manipulate the commodity bearing laborers, which is not right. I've worked my body till I'm sore. That takes away from me being able to go out here and just enjoy the trails and the hikes, so that people can invest and have more money than I could ever earn in my lifetime at minimum wage, if that's what I make. And yes, a lot of people make a lot less than excuse my language, $50,000 a year. A lot of people live on a lot less than $35,000 a year. A lot of people could live on $15,000 a year comfortably if they were left alone, did not have to delegate their time with their family away to somebody else. Educational and structure is good. But when you're forced to participate with a tax system that doesn't give you any securities, forces you to go out here and buy insurances from a third party, forces you to go out here and get a third party to defend you against unrighteous actions of the departments, you shouldn't have to. It should be quite automatic. There should be somebody working to, not a private individual trying to make a profit, but there should be things out here working to defend you. Yes, I know. The private market helps stimulate growth. Well, free market's pretty cool. But when you start making regulations to force people to do business with the free market, like the insurances, it's not pretty cool anymore. If you're forced to purchase insurance from a private individual, every time you make that payment of insurance, you're undermining your ability to come up in the world. Because every time you make that payment, they go up, you go down. That's it. You're forced to lose out to the social media thing, because every time you pay that media provider, the internet provider, they go up, you go down. Their opinion matters more. They have more power every time. When they're able to ban certain substances that promote health, such as cannabis, to force you to go out here and take medication that the doctors have devised that benefits you but have an underlying defect where it attacks your liver, that is socially engineered. Yeah, they can treat your liver for these side effects. But why not use the natural remedies? The clean substances. You know, the crack and the cocaine of the 70s was only detrimental to the family unit because of the extravagant cost that people would buy this stuff instead of eating and buying the stuff that they needed. It's not that it's that bad for you. It's that it takes away from other resources because it's so overpriced. And it's overpriced because of the prohibition on it. These substances, these amphetamines, The clean amphetamines that they have they're capable of producing don't have the catastrophic effects on the body as the methamphetamines, the street drugs that are contaminated, do. The government regulates these drugs and prevents people from being able to pursue their happiness and runs them like a cattle to where they can control it, be deprived of it, forced to pay a ransom to obtain it, forced to pander to a doctor or pander to a system. We got to acknowledge that we've lived in the dark ages of mass communication, and we're coming to the light, and there's healthier alternatives than what was previously allowed. And there's healthier knowledge than has been previously provided. I did not study computers. Did you know that most computers are programmed by other computers now? That the algorithms and all that stuff of these high functioning devices such as the iPhone and smartphones and all this stuff are not created by people, because the functionability, anyhow, I've done a briefer of it here on the internet, and after so much innovation, and the computers just took over, and now we don't even